Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
As everyone is exiting the throne room, Ainz calls out to someone. Pandora's actor, come here for a moment, he says.
Yes.
Father, Pandora says. As Pandora is making his way over, Ainz turns to the four ladies near him. Albedo, Oriole, thank you for your help today. I will let you four talk for a bit while I talk to Pandora in my office. Let me know when you wish to return. I have Demiurge's subordinates maintaining a dimensional lock over Nazarick while you are out of the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary, he says. You're welcome, Father,
Oriole says.
It was an honor, Lord Ainz, Albedo says. Ainz gives Albedo a smile and ruffles Oriole's hair like a father would his daughter. When he talked to them at the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary and she called him that, he thought it was a little strange. He understood their creations, saw them as their parents, but she was Taylar's creation, not his. When he checked her settings afterward, he saw she had it in her backstory that he was her father. He smiled at the fact that even 3 years ago when Taylar made Oriole, she wanted to have a family with him. It was also a weird experience talking with Albedo for the first time. Not only was she someone who could actually kill him if she decided to attack him, but she looked like the angelic version of Albedo. With any other citizen of Nazarick, that would not be much of a problem. But since Albedo and Albedo were essentially exact copies of Taylar from Earth, it was different. He didn't feel the same as he did with the other members of Nazarick. He felt kind of bad. He was thinking she was so damn beautiful when he met her for the first time, but being with Taylar and Albedo the last couple of weeks kind of made it hard not to think that. Honestly, just about every woman in Nazarick was beautiful, but Ainz could control himself. Having Taylar and Albedo made it quite easy to not be distracted by any other woman. Women as beautiful as those two were near impossible to find even in Nazarick. Remembering why he was here made him get over it rather quickly and go over his plan with them and see if they would help him. With Negrito, it was a little different. She might have had Taylar's eyes, but Tabula designed her to have no face. It was strange seeing Taylar's eyes in the midst of a bunch of muscle, ligaments, and other things, but it just made him feel the same connection he felt with every other member of Nazarick. Ainz gives Taylar and Albedo both a kiss on the forehead and heads off towards his office with Pandora. Not before Pandora says, "Congratulations, mothers." "Thank you, son," they both say and giggle. Ainz and Pandora make their way into the office and leave the four women to talk to each other. "Congratulations, mother. I know you wanted this for a long time,"
Oriole says.
"I have baby, and when exactly did Ainz put this together?" "I just saw you a little bit ago." Taylar asks. "Father showed up this morning a couple hours before you did and talked to me and Albedo about it," she tells her. "So you knew when I was there and didn't tell your mother?" she says in a motherly tone. "I am sorry, mother. Father asked me not to tell you," she replies.
"I'm not mad, baby.
"Thank you for everything you did today.
It means a lot to me."
"Are you excited to be out of the sanctuary?" Taylar says. "Absolutely, mother. It is nice to see more of Nazarick even if it is just the throne room. It is much different than just seeing it through my scrying windows," she replies. "I'm glad you got to stretch your legs. I'm sure once things calm down you will be able to get out more often." Taylar says. "Father said he would let me come out at least once a week to explore if it was okay with you, Mom."
Oriole says. "Oh, did he? I don't see a problem with that, baby."
"I hope you still want to spend time with your poor mother when you are allowed to leave." Taylar fake pouts. "Of course, mother. I want you to take me all over Nazarick," she says to cheer her up. "Have you met Albedo yet, baby?" "I don't think she has come to the 8th floor yet." Taylar asks. "No, I haven't. What am I supposed to call her mother?" Oriole asks. "What do you mean?" Taylar asks. "Well, if she is father's wife like you are, should I call her mom too, or aunt, or overseer, or queen? I'm not really sure."
Oriole says.
That's a good question, baby. Why don't we go ask Albedo? Taylar says and heads toward Albedo and Rubido. Albedo and Rubido are about 15 feet away having their own conversation. I'm happy for you, sister. I know how much you wanted to be with Lord Ainz. Rubido says, Thank you, sister. When did you speak to Lord Ainz about this? Did he come to the 8th floor to see you? Albedo asks. Lord Ainz came this morning to talk to me and Oriole. It was the first time I met Lord Ainz. Rubido says. Albedo notices a light blush on her face talking about meeting Ainz for the first time. Oh, does my little sister have a crush on Lord Ainz? Albedo asks teasingly. Enna, no, sister. I would never try to replace you at Lord Ainz's side. I have just never felt someone with so much power before, even on the 8th floor. Lord Ainz was the first person not to be scared of me because of my power. That is all. Rubido replies. Who said anything about replacing me, sister? Do you think I am replacing Lady Taylar? I might soon be a queen, but Lord Ainz is the absolute ruler of Nazarick. He may take as many brides as he likes as far as I'm concerned. As long as Shaltir is behind me, it doesn't matter to me, and being already engaged to him, and number 2 behind only Lady Taylar assures my spot ahead of her anyway. I suppose you don't know the advantage we hold over the others in Nazarick when it comes to Lord Ainz's affection, little sister. Albedo says. What do you mean by that, sister? Rubido asks. We were created in the likeness of Lady Taylar from their original world. When Lord Ainz looks at us, he sees the woman he loved on their original world, so he is much more open to being affectionate towards us than the others. He sees the others of Nazarick like his friends' children. I think Nigredo not having a face will probably rule her out, but one of the homunculi maids, Sixus, is also created in her likeness from a different world, so she may also be a possibility. Albedo tells Rubido. Where did you hear this from, sister? Rubido asks. Lady Taylar told me, sister. Albedo says. Is that why he was staring at me for a second when I first met Lord Ainz? Rubido thinks. You seem to be thinking about something, sister. Care to share? Albedo says. It was probably just my imagination, sister. Rubido says. Oh, you have to tell me now then. Albedo says. Well, when I met Lord Ainz for the first time, I thought he was staring at me, but it was only for a second, so I was probably just mistaken, she says. Albedo gets a grin on her face. It is one that Rubido isn't a big fan of. It reminds her that Albedo might be the sister she loves, but she is indeed a demon. I don't like it when you get that smile, sister. Rubido says. Well, if you could get ahead of Shaltir, I could rub that in her face too. I was just thinking about her reaction to me giving her such news, she says with that same smile on her face. Why do you still bother with Shaltir? You have already one sister. Rubido says. I have let it go for the most part, but it is still nice to remind her from time to time. Albedo replies. That looks like the Albedo plotting against Shaltir's smile I see sometimes. Taylar giggles. Lady Taylar, it is an honor to meet you, Rubido says and kneels down in front of her queen. Stand up, Rubido. There is no need to do that when it is not official business. Taylar says. But Lady Taylar, you are a sup dash. Taylar grabs Rubido by the shoulders and gets her to stand up. She looks her over and looks at Albedo. They look like twins, almost like two sides of the same coin to her. It was the first time she had ever seen Rubido and didn't realize Tabula used her likeness for both of them. Taylar pushed the feelings she had rising in her gut to get an answer for Oriole. It is nice to meet you as well, Rubido. I know you are her older sister Albedo, but you two look like twins. Anyway, my little girl had a question I wasn't quite sure how to answer, so we need your help, she says. I'll help the best I can, Oriole. What is your question? Albedo says, and looks at the girl. Oriole just looks at Taylar with a, why are you making me ask this face? Taylar looks down when she doesn't ask, sees her face, and just giggles a bit. Apparently, she is too shy to ask. She wasn't quite sure how to address you. She is my little girl, and we are both his wife. There is also your position to consider. So, what sounds good to you? Mom? Aunt? Queen? Overseer? Lady? Taylar asks. While I wouldn't mind if you called me Mom, I think considering the circumstances, the most appropriate one would be Aunt. Aunt Albedo does kind of make me sound old. She pouts. Haha, come on, Albedo. You are certainly not old. Taylar says. I like it. Aunt Albedo.
Oriel says.
Arwinter, capital of the Empire. Emperor Jerkniv Rune Farlord Elnix, the Bloody Emperor as he was known, was sitting at his desk. He was going over the reports from his nobles in the Riestei's kingdom. He had been bleeding the kingdom dry for years now, and it was easy to buy their nobility for information. He even got a little lucky and happened to pay more to a certain noble than the slain theocracy, and he was able to keep an eye on their movements in the kingdom also. He was going over again several reports he received a few days prior about the arrival of a supposed angel in the kingdom named Ainz. Normally, he would have no idea if something like an angel could even be manipulated as a pawn, but he read in one of the other reports that he had wives. Any being like that certainly had a price. After all, even the dragon lords loved their treasure. He just had to figure out what that price was. His other reports were about what the kingdom was going to do in the war this year. It would only be a couple more years, and he would have bled them dry to the point he could conquer them. He could do it now, but it would result in too many losses, and he wouldn't have enough troops to maintain order in both regions. After a few more rough harvests and loss of their citizens, most of the kingdom would fall to him without even a fight. Last of his reports were about up and coming adventurers in the kingdom. He tried to steal as much talent from the world as possible for the empire. He learned quickly there was never enough talented people around for his liking. Sure, he had plenty of talented subordinates, and the Empire had a school where it trained arcane casters, but it still wasn't enough for what he wanted to accomplish in his life. As he was finishing the last of his reports, the man he had been waiting for had finally arrived for their meeting. The man looked to be a short, wrinkle-faced old man in his 70s or 80s, but in reality, he was much older than that. He was closer to 300 years old than he was to 200. He had used magic to extend his life to gain the knowledge he sought. His name was Flood of Paradine, Imperial Court Wizard, or as he was better known, the Triple Magic Caster. He was the Baharuth Empire's trump card, and the reason no one dared attack the Empire. It is about time you got here, Gramps. Jerkniv says. Ah yes, forgive my tardiness, Your Majesty. This old body doesn't move like it used to. Flutta says. Did you get any information on what I asked you to look into? The Emperor asks him. I looked into it, Your Majesty, and am happy to report I found nothing, he says with a giant smile on his face. Why do you look so happy about finding nothing, Gramps? The Emperor asks. If this Ainz does exist, and from what you told me he certainly does, and I cannot find him with my magic, that can only mean one of two things. He either possesses a magic item to block my magic, or he is a magic caster equal to or greater than I am. Flutter says to the Emperor. The guards and Flutter's disciples all frozen at this news. How could there be another magic caster of Flutton's level out there? He was the strongest magic caster in the history of the Empire. So that's why you are so happy. You might finally meet someone of your level, the Emperor says. Of course, it has been nearly 200 years since I met someone of comparable strength to me. Flutta says. Oh, I never knew you met someone as strong as you, Gramps. Who was it? The Emperor says with genuine curiosity in his voice. Yes, it was the necromancer, Rigrit Bear's Karau, one of the 13 heroes from the legends. He tells the Emperor. Haven't you already passed her up, Gramps? The Emperor says. Yes, if she is still as powerful now as she was back then, but I have not seen her since that day, so there is no way I can truly know. Flutter says. I believe this Ainz fellow might even pass her up. Here, take a look at this. the Emperor says and throws a piece of paper at Flutter. Flutter looks over the paper and raises an eyebrow at reading it. When he got near the end, he could hardly believe what was written. If this is true, Fludden might actually be able to find a teacher as he has desired for the last 200 years, and Ainz Olgown might be even more powerful than he suspected. So 4 soldiers from the slain theocracy ran to the wrong country out of fear of Ainz Olgown and ended up here. From the description they gave, it seems he was controlling a Death Knight. Flutter says excitedly. Wait, a Death Knight. One of the disciples yells out. What is a Death Knight, old man? I remember hearing something about it. The Emperor says. That is the undead locked up under the Ministry of Magic that even I cannot control. Fwahahaha. Flutter laughs uncontrollably. Calm yourself down, Gramps. I have other news I think you will be just as excited about, the Emperor says. But your Majesty, have you dispatched anyone to this village to make contact with Ainz Olgown? I can send one of my disciples. No, I will go instead. It will show we are serious about making friendly relations. Flutter is cut off. Gramps, I said calm yourself down. You are not going, and neither are your disciples. That is in kingdom territory, and we cannot risk it yet. I need you to look into something else for me, the Emperor says. I am sorry, Jur. It has been a long time since there has been the possibility of meeting someone as powerful or more than me. What do you need me to do? Flutter says. You know I will sell my soul to peer into the abyss of magic, Jur. I will find this Ainz Olgown and beg him to be my master. Flutter thinks. I have received word from some of my contacts in the kingdom that there is a new, very interesting adventurer party working out of Irantal. They call themselves the Forsaken, and according to their leader, and the only male member, Mammon. The 2 women casters with him are capable of using Tier 4 magic and only look to be in their late teens, maybe early 20s. They went from copper to mithril rank after just a few days of registering. If my contacts are to be believed, the next thing they do of any significance will get them orichalcum, and if it is major, adamantite. If you could get them to come to the Empire as your apprentices, or just convince them to base out of Arwinter, it would help the Empire. The kingdom already has Blue Rose and Red Drop. We cannot let them get a 3rd adamantite group and pass us up, the Emperor says. Oh, teens that can cast Tier 4 magic. That is certainly interesting, Jur. I will try to find out about them and see about talking to them if possible. Flutter says. I'm still devoting most of my time to Ainz Olgown, Jur, he thinks. All right, Gramps. Let me know when you find anything new out about them. I might even grace them with my presence if it will convince them to move their base of operations. Jerkniv says. Then I shall take my leave and get started right away, Your Majesty. Fludden says and takes off to his tower to continue his search for Ainz Olgown. Nazarick, 9th floor conference room. Albedo, Mare, Seabass, Shaltir, and the Pleiades were sitting around the conference room table. It took some coaxing to get everyone but Albedo to sit down when they first arrived. None of them believed they should be sitting in here talking. Albedo, on the other hand, walked in and sat down at the table without a second thought. As far as Albedo was concerned, there were only 3 seats in here no one was allowed to sit in. The rest of them were empty, and anyone could sit in them. It was nearly impossible for Albedo to get them to sit down. It wasn't until she told them Lord Ainz had picked this room for their meeting that they were comfortable enough to actually sit at the table. The looks in their eyes when they sat down in the seats disgusted Albedo. She couldn't understand how they still held their creators in such high regard after they abandoned everyone. Albedo's anger was about to boil over, but she composed herself and brought the meeting to a start. Now, we are here to discuss the Riestai's kingdom and what we are going to do about the organizations known as Zuranon and Eight Fingers. Albedo says. I thought we were only concerned about 8 fingers, Albedo. Seabass says. Our main focus will be on 8 fingers, Seabass, but we must also begin our plans for Zuranon at the same time. Albedo says. Why did you bring me into your plans, Succubus? Shelter says, obviously unhappy she is being ordered around by Albedo. Believe me, Lamprey, this was not my idea. You have failed Lord Ainz already, and I did not want you as part of my plans. Lord Ainz insisted I use you. You are only here to help us draw attention to Zuranon. I will handle the 8 fingers. Albedo says. What's the matter, gorilla? Afraid I'll show you up and gain Lord Ain's favor? Shelter says with a smug grin on her face. Kukufahaha. Albedo laughs a little at Shelter. She brings her left hand up in front of her face and begins to play with the ring Lord Ainz gave her earlier today to rub it in Shelter's face. You have no chance to do that, Lamprey. You should be more concerned with yourself now that your place as the strongest fighter guardian has been replaced. Albedo tells her. What, do you think you can defeat me now, succubus? You stand no chance against me one-on-one. Sheltir tells the overseer. Oh no, I am referring to the fact that my little sister is no longer confined to the 8th floor and is now serving Lord Ainz directly. You may be strong, Sheltir, but my little sister would destroy you in a moment. I would lose that smug grin you have, or you might end up stuck in Nazarick doing meaningless work since you can't control yourself while outside of Nazarick. We won't always be there to come to save you. You should probably just start calling me Queen Albedo, since you will need to shortly. Albedo says with a big smile on her face. She emphasized the we, so she remembered Albedo had to come to help her with Lord Ainz and Lady Taylar. You fucking bit dash, Sheltir is interrupted by Seabass. I know you two have a rivalry going, but can we get to the reason for the meeting? There is no rivalry, Seabass. She cannot even begin to make me worry, but you are right. We should get to the real reason we are here and stop wasting time so I can return to my FINCS side. Albedo says to him. She stared right at Sheltir and waved her ring back and forth in front of her as she emphasized fiancé. Sheltir just bit her lip, trying not to give Albedo a piece of her mind and get this meeting over with, so she didn't need to be near this bitch. I am still unsure why I am here. I spent 2 weeks in the kingdom, and a lot of the nobles and commoners know my face. Being a part of this might draw too much attention to what Solution and I were doing in the capital.
Seabass says.
Normally you would be right, Seabass. You weren't initially part of our plans, but they changed a few hours ago after an incident in the capital. So now you're going to help us. Albedo says. What incident are you referring to, Albedo?
Seabass asked.
It is about your new pet, Seabass. She was the property of 8 fingers, and they seem upset you stole their whore. According to the 8 edge assassins, 2 men showed up to talk with you about returning that insect, but the mansion had already been vacated. Other men returned later the next day and threw a brick with a note attached through the window of the manor Lord Ainz bought.
Albedo says.
They dared to destroy the property of the supreme beings. Seabass says with anger. It is good to see you care more for the supreme beings than your new pet, Seabass. Albedo says. What is that supposed to mean, Albedo?
Seabass asks.
Oh, nothing. Some of the members of Nazarick thought you might be more loyal to your new toy than our true rulers. Albedo tells him. That is ridiculous. Who is saying such nonsense? Seabass stands up to say, almost yelling, wondering who would say something so ridiculous. That is irrelevant now, Seabass. As you said, let us get to the real reason we are here. We have located the 8 places 8 fingers does their work out of. With the help of our new toy from the kingdom, we will hit all 8 of these locations and take everything 8 fingers currently has for Nazarick. Albedo says. Who is this person you speak of from the kingdom, Albedo?
Seabass asks.
That is not important. What is important is that she is going to direct her adventurer friends away from what we are doing until our goals are complete. Then we will use the adventurers of the kingdom to draw attention to Zuranon and pin all of this on them. Albedo tells them. Why are we trying to draw out Zuranon? From what I read, they were rather weak. Does Lord Ainz have a purpose for them?
Seabass asks.
The head of Zuranon in the kingdom was rather weak, but Lord Ainz wants to know if there are any among them who would be useful to us. He had Demiurge look into them while he was in the kingdom gathering intel, but their cult is spread out all over the world according to Demiurge. We are going to make them responsible for this incident so that the entire world is looking for them, and they have limited places to hide. How are we going to do that, Overseer? Mayor asks. That is where shelter comes into our plans, Mayor. Now, here is what we are going to do. 8th floor Cherry Blossom Sanctuary. Taylar, Oriole, and Demiurge appear just outside the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary. It was the first time anyone who wasn't a supreme being had stepped foot on the 8th floor. Lord Ainz had forbidden anyone from coming here and activated the bypass so that no one had to pass through this floor when going to the 9th or 10th floor. Demiurge took in the beauty of this place like he always did when admiring Nazarick. The simple but perfect design of the sanctuary brought a calm to Demiurge. It was like his worries were washing away just standing in front of the door. When Taylar opened the door and Demiurge got to behold the rows upon rows of sakura trees inside the sanctuary, he was moved at the sight. It was rare for Demiurge to show such emotion, but he couldn't stop himself from smiling at this place. He wished the supreme beings would let more visit this sacred place. If it could do such a thing as bring a smile to Demiurge's face, he believed it would make most of the citizens of Nazarick weep at its beauty. As they made their way into the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary, Demiurge was contemplating whether he should ask the question that had been on his mind since they were leaving the throne room. It was a question he desperately wanted the answer to, but was sure if it would be overstepping his position by asking. He finally decided the risk was worth the answer and asked Taylar his question right as they all took a seat. Lady Taylar, may I ask you a personal question? Of course, Demiurge. What is your question? She says. I heard Oriole call Lord Ainz father, and they certainly look like father and daughter. Is Oriole really Lord Ainz's daughter? Demiurge asks. Yes, she is Demiurge. Why do you ask? Taylar says to him. All of us in the great tomb of Nazarick had wished for an heir to pledge our loyalty to, but it seems we have already had an heir here the whole time, Supreme One. Demiurge replies. Well, that is true and not true, Demiurge. Oriole has a very specific skill set, one that none other possesses even in Nazarick. The only way she could rule Nazarick is if we could find someone to take her place, and no one possesses the talent to do such a thing. Taylar tells him. Surely we can train someone to take her place if the need arises, Lady Taylar. The heir of Nazarick and daughter of the last two supreme beings shouldn't be confined to just one floor. We would all do our best to help her and pledge our undying loyalty to her, my queen. Demiurge says, Mother, I don't want to rule Nazarick. I want you and father to rule forever. Oriole says to Taylar. Training someone to do what she can is beyond difficult, Demiurge. Even if we could find another Miko, the chances of that person having the same talents as Oriole are slim, and don't you worry, baby. Your father and I are not going anywhere. I'm sure you will have plenty of brothers and sisters in the future. Taylar says, We all look forward to the day we can pledge our loyalty to all the heirs of Nazarick, Supreme One. Demiurge tells Taylar, Now we can get to the reason I brought you here, Demiurge. I want you to head to the Holy Kingdom. Unlike your time in Pleiades, you will be doing more than simple intelligence gathering. I wish for you to bring this Holy Kingdom to its knees for us to the point they are begging us to help them. There are some people in this kingdom I want you to deal with harshly, but you must remember that some need to survive if we are going to be able to rule this country and rebuild it after your mission. Taylar tells Demiurge, I understand, Lady Taylar. Is the 12-year-old rule still in effect for this kingdom? Demiurge asks, Yes, consider that a rule for everyone in Nazarick at all times. I want you to try and keep the civilian population losses to a minimum. We will need them to rebuild, and they are not the problem with their country. It is their nobles, holy leaders, and especially that superficial bitch of a queen they have. You will make her suffer the most. I want you to break her completely before you finish her, Demiurge. Do you understand? She says. Yes, Lady Taylar, I will follow your will. Demiurge says with a giant smile on his face. He had never seen Lady Taylar act so ruthless before. It was refreshing to know that even someone as divine and loving as the supreme being of life could have a dark side. You're going to have 3 months to plan your mission, Demiurge. I know that is a lot of time for you, but I have something else I wish for you to look into in that time, she tells him. Anything you wish, Supreme One. Demiurge replies. I want you to go over the reports Oriol has also made of the slain theocracy. They will be the next you will target after the Holy Kingdom, and I want you to get a head start on that as well. They have items from Yggdrasil, even world-class items, as we saw when we retrieved the downfall of castle and country from that old woman. The last reason you have so long, as we need you to wait that long. Taylar says. I am unsure of what you mean, Lady Taylar, but I will abide by your commands always. Demiurge says. The kingdom and the empire wage war with each other every year around the same time. We're going to use this as our introduction to the world. Once we have done that, you will start your campaign. It will give us time to secure our new domain in this world and be the only viable option for the Holy Kingdom to turn to. Ainz, Albedo, and I have lifted your restriction on coming to the 8th floor, but you may still only visit the sanctuary to go over reports with Oriol and ask any questions of her you have. She also has incredible scrying skills she can use for you. Just don't ask too much of her. We already have her looking into many things, so she will only be able to help you so much. Taylar tells the devil. Thank you, Lady Taylar. I am sure the heir of Nazarick will be of great help to me. Demiurge tells her. I have some other things that require my attention for a while. I will take my leave and let you two get started. Oriol, I will be back with dinner for you later on, baby. Demiurge, I look forward to what you have planned for the Holy Kingdom and slain theocracy, she says to them. See you later, Mom, Oriol says. I shall try not to disappoint you, Supreme One, Demiurge says. Enri Amat's house, Carne village, the next day. Enri, Nemu, and the goblins who worked in the fields that day were making their way back to Enri's house for lunch. The goblins built their house very close to Enri's. They said it was to protect her, but she was pretty sure they just wanted to be close to the food. As they made their way up the path, Enri's front door came into sight. What she saw standing there was unbelievable. Standing on one side of her door was Lady Taylar. She absolutely would never forget what she looked like as long as she lived. Her beautiful face, pure white wings, and dress that Enri had only ever seen her wear stood out in her mind easily. When she looked to the woman on the other side, she first thought it was Lady Albedo. She had almost the same exact face, but she realized instead of the horns, black hair and black wings. This woman had golden everything. Her hair, eyes, armor dress, helmet, and even her skin seemed to glow with a golden hue. She realized she had been staring and immediately dropped down to one knee even though she was still a good distance away. She looked at Nemu and saw her still standing. She was staring. Wide-eyed, mouth open, looking on in awe of the two angels. She quickly tried to pull her down, but before she could get her down, someone called out to her. You may rise, Enri. There is really no reason to do that when I show up at your house unannounced like this. Taylar says, as she makes her way over to them. Enri looked at Taylar, then back to Nemu, who is still staring. Nemu, it is rude to stare. Be courteous to the savior of Carne village, she says. It is okay, Enri. Taylar says, then kneels down and pats Nemu on the head. So pretty, Nemu says. Well, aren't you just a cutie? You are very pretty yourself, Nemu. Taylar says. TT, thank you, Lady Taylar. Nemu says excitedly. So how is everything? I see you and the goblins get along great. Have you used the other horn Ainz gave you? She asks. It is going all right, Lady Taylar. The goblins have been very helpful, but it will still be hard to get a proper harvest with all the losses. I still have the other horn Lord Ainz gave me. I only wanted to use it in case of an emergency, she tells her. I would say possibly not making your harvest might be an emergency. If you need another one, I have one too. She reaches into her inventory and pulls out a horn. Honestly, these things were useless and they had a ton of them from playing that damn machine so much. And no, please, I cannot accept that, Lady Taylar. You have already done so much, and truthfully, it is already hard to hide 20 goblins. 20 more would probably be impossible for us. Enri says, "Are you sure? I have more. Why do you need to hide the goblins?"
Taylar asks.
"I am sure, Lady Taylar. And if the tax collector saw the goblins, he would definitely report it, and they would send an adventurer party to kill the goblins." Enri says, "That is a shame. They do nothing but help and protect you guys. That will change soon though, Enri, don't you worry." Taylar says, "What do you mean, Lady Taylar?" Enri asks, "We have surveyed the land to plot our old domain. Your village falls into that area, and when we announce our return to the world soon, your village will be under our rule. So you will no longer need to hide the goblins. All races will be welcome in our land as long as they can get along with others," she tells Enri. Enri just stares at her, in awe like Nemu was. To think they would have the protection of this supreme being was incredibly joyful to both of them. Letting the goblins be real citizens and not have to hide them would be fantastic too. "It will be our honor, Lady Taylar." Enri finally gets out. "I suppose I interrupted your lunch. Rabido, are you hungry?" Taylar asks. "I do not require food, Lady Taylar, but I can eat, yes," Rabido says. "Mind if I join you for lunch, Enri? I'll make the food since it is a last-minute request."
Taylar says.
"I couldn't ask you to do that. I am not sure my cooking would be worthy for you to eat, Lady Taylar." Enri says, "I didn't say I was cooking. I said I can make it. Go gather the villagers in the square. I'll get everything ready." Taylar says, then just starts walking off towards the village square. Enri, Nemu, and the goblins just stand there for a second, not knowing what to do. The only person who moved was Rabido, and that was to follow Taylar. They finally snapped out of it, and Enri told everyone to split up and go to a house. With 22 of them, it wouldn't take long since they lost so many in the attack. Once Enri, Nemu, and the goblins had gone to every house in the village, they headed towards the village square. When it came into sight, none of them expected the sight in front of them. There was an enormous table in the village square that could probably seat 100 people. On top of the table was nothing but food. Turkeys, chicken, ham, pork, vegetables, fruits, you name it, and it was there. No one had any idea where in the world the table or food came from. They just saw Taylar and Rabido sitting at the table getting ready to eat. "The table is already set. You can sit down and eat whatever you like," Taylar says. They're just standing there in awe, and no one moved to sit down. This got a giggle out of Taylar. "It's fine to eat, I promise, see." She takes a bite of a chicken leg. "Now sit down and eat. Enri, Nemu, will you two sit right here?" She points to the two spots next to her. "Of course, Lady Taylar," Enri says. Nemu just runs over and jumps up right next to her. She puts her hand out to touch Taylar's wing, but Enri grabs her hand.
Nemu.
"Don't do something like that," she scolds the little girl. "It's okay, Enri. Do you want to touch it?" And she extends her wing out to her. Nemu just nods her head and reaches her hand out. "Soft," she says, staring at the feathers. "Yep, definitely a cutie," she says and pats her head. Everyone else finally sits down and eats. Taylar asks a question she wanted to, but wanted the villagers to start eating first. "So, Enri?" "Yes, Lady Taylar?" Enri answers, wondering what she's going to ask. "What's up with that statue over there?" She points to a statue of her, Ainz, and Albedo in the center of the village. "We thought it was the least we could do for the saviors of our village. Sorry if the craftsmanship isn't as good as it should be." Enri says. "No, the craftsmanship is fine, but couldn't you have used the money from the metals to help out the village?"
Taylar asks.
"But you, Lord Ainz, and Lady Albedo have already done so much. It is the least we can do for you. We wanted to add Lord Ainz Knight too, but he was a lot of metal. We hope to add him in the future." Enri says. "You mean the Death Knight? Did you not fear the Death Knight?"
Taylar asks.
He was scary, but he protected the villagers and only hurt the people attacking us. Enri says, "To think you would even get along with the undead. You are an amazing girl, Enri Amat." Taylar says, "I am just a simple village girl, Lady Taylar. She has no idea how being like this believes she is amazing." Don't sell yourself short, Enri.
There are very few who can see past race as you can.
Especially among the human race. I'm sure you have seen it being around the goblins so much. You inspired us to make our kingdom a place where all races can coexist. See, you even inspired us. Amazing, like I said. How come Firia or Lizzie isn't out here? I don't see them anywhere. Taylar tells her. Ever since they got the new alchemy equipment and ingredients, they almost never leave the house. I try to check on them from time to time, but I'm really busy and it really smells over there. Enri says. This gets a giggle out of Taylar. Yeah, we had a friend once who was a crazy alchemist. Well, I'm sorry to cut this short, but I need to head home. I'm sure Ainz is worried for no reason. He even made me bring Albedo to come here and talk to you. Don't worry about cleaning up. The table, food, and dishware will disappear in 44 minutes, so get your fill until then, she says. Her and Albedo stand up to leave. Everyone is about to stand up to say goodbye, but she just holds a hand out to stop them, waves her hand, and opens her wings to fly away. They all see a pair of wings made of light appear on the other woman's back, and she follows Lady Taylar up into the sky. Guild Master's office, 10th floor of Nazarick. Ainz had just finished talking to Cocytus through message and was a little disappointed. He told him he was ready to commence his attack, but had yet to ask for anything other than what he already did. He had no doubt he would succeed in his first assault, but if the Lizardmen were even half intelligent, they would band together at some point, and Cocytus would not be able to win with his current forces. If they didn't combine their forces, then they weren't worth having around anyway, and Ainz would hasten their demise. Ainz is looking through the mirror of remote viewing to keep an eye on Cocytus' orders. When he notices the Elder Lich not commanding the undead, but rather staying a little farther back in the woods, he frowns again. Gates suffering clouds. Right as he is doing that, Taylar and Albedo walk into the office to watch the battle with him. You two have perfect timing. I just sent my suffering clouds through a gate. Ainz says. What's wrong, love? They both say and giggle. Do you two plan that before you walk in here? Ainz asks. No, love, they say again. So, why the frown? Taylar asks. Cocytus. Ainz sighs out. Did he fail you in some way, love? Albedo says. No, not really. I suppose he did more than I thought he would already, but I was hoping that would continue. I did not give him enough units to succeed on purpose, hoping he would ask for other types of units, but he hasn't even used the commander I gave him as a commander. He is just the reserve force as it looks now. He should have been able to conquer 3 or maybe 4 villages before he needed reinforcements if the Lizardmen didn't band together. If they do that, he doesn't stand a chance. Ainz tells both of them. They can both see the disappointment on his face. Taylar knew Ainz wanted Cocytus to learn on his own, but he might have set the bar too high to start with. She knew how serious Cocytus took being the first to engage in battle under the flag of Nazarick. Albedo, on the other hand, was mad, very mad. If Cocytus was disappointing Lord Ainz this soon, maybe she should just take over, so she knew it would get handled to his wonderful approval. If you are this disappointed in him already, maybe I should take over your campaign, Lord Ainz. I will crush the Lizardmen for you, by myself, if I must. Albedo says. No, Albedo, this is a test for Cocytus. Do not interfere in his planning. I want to see how quickly he can learn from his mistakes. Ainz tells her. He looked her directly in the eye the entire time he spoke to make sure she knew not to get in the middle of it. Don't be so hard on Cocytus. He is learning and doesn't have the benefit of being around me and you all the time like Albedo does. We have been spending too much time away and not helping the Guardians and Pleiades enough. He will come around. I know how proud he is to be the first to wage war in this world. Taylar tells Ainz. I hope you are right, Taylar. I do want to spend more time in Nazarick also. I have something planned for tomorrow I'm sure you will enjoy. Ainz says to her. You are full of surprises in this world. I can't wait till tomorrow. Taylar says. You seriously aren't going to pester me until I tell you what it is? Ainz asks. He was genuinely shocked at her being excited to wait for a surprise. Nope, I'll wait. Taylar says and gives him a smile. Fake Nazarick Cocytus Command Center. Cocytus was looking through the remote viewing mirror at his unit breaking the tree line and heading towards the first Lizardmen village. As he was scanning the area, he saw it was a swampland area. He saw moss-covered trees, reeds, scummy-looking water, and all the insects you would expect to find there. When he turned his attention to the village, he noticed all their houses built on what looked like stilts. This made sense to Cocytus given the terrain. He saw lizardmen of various sizes running about. He estimated about 50 warriors had answered the call of Lord Ainz' summons of their demise. The lizardmen of this village had blue scales covering the majority of their bodies with a light yellow chest. They had smaller snouts than Cocytus imagined they would, and there seemed to be small spikes sticks out of the end of their tails. He could see the vast majority of them were trembling at the sight of the undead unit. Cocytus assumed these must just be common folk who picked up weapons to defend the village, but that would mean the village only had 5 warriors. That didn't make sense to Cocytus. He wondered where all the warriors were at. Little did Cocytus know. All these lizard men were warriors. Cocytus estimated he should only lose about 10% to 15% of his unit in this battle. The enemy had few warriors, and even if these undead were weak, they would easily overwhelm them with numbers. 200 versus 5 was hardly good odds for them. Once they had gotten into position, Cocytus ordered the attack. The undead unit advanced, zombie riders in the front, zombie beasts making up the second rank. The third rank was the skeletons and zombies. The rear guard was made up of the skeletal archers. The lizard men had come out to meet the undead in the swamp. With no time to prepare, they had no time to fortify anything, and fighting a defensive battle in the village like that would not be advantageous. It will also just lead to a lot of the village being destroyed. As they charged towards each other, Cocytus observed as the battle unfolded. He saw his riders charging, but after just a couple hundred feet, he saw them tumble over in a heap. When he inspected the area with a mirror of remote viewing, he noticed holes strategically placed through the swamp. This was something he did not notice before, and his undead riders started falling one after another. As he turned his attention toward the lizard men once more, he noticed they were no longer shaking in fear but looked inspired and ready for battle. He had no idea where this sudden change in attitude came from. He realized he needed to send in the Elder Lich before he took many more losses and get this battle over with quickly. As the lizard men and undead clashed, Cocytus was surprised by the skill and tenacity of the lizard men. They were destroying much more undead than he thought they would in his initial assessment. The lizard men were starting to get an even bigger morale boost as they noticed they were starting to win the battle. Their morale was sky high when it was interrupted by a spell. Fireball. As the fireball impacted, 10 of the lizard men were instantly vaporized, and the lizard men suddenly stopped shouting to look where it came from. When they turned their gazes towards the back line, they saw an undead most of this world were familiar with. It was an undead body with rotting flesh and bones showing in places all over its body. It held a twisted staff, had a tattered old robe on with a thin, menacing miasma shrouding its body. It was an Elder Lich and followed up its first spell with another. Fireball. The Elder Lich unleashes another fireball into the lizard men ranks, reducing them even further. Now the undead had the clear upper hand and was starting to wear down the lizard men to finish them off. The remaining lizard men fought bravely to buy the remaining villagers time to flee from certain death. By the time the battle was over, the village looked completely abandoned. Cocytus assessed the situation with the mirror of remote viewing. The first thing he realized is that he severely underestimated the lizard men. Cocytus thought he would lose about 20 to 25 undead based off the lizard men's strength, prep time, and bravery. After a quick count, he realized he had lost about 70 undead, not 20 to 25 as he first thought. This meant a reduction in his unit size by 35%, more than double the amount he thought he would lose. He also realized the warrior lizardmen had bought enough time for the rest of the villagers to flee. He had won the first battle for Lord Ainz, but it was for nothing more than an empty village. He would have to figure out a way to subdue the next village with his remaining force, or he would fail the Supreme Being. Ainz' office in Nazarick. Well, that went even worse than I thought it would. Ainz finally says after looking over the battlefield. At least he learned a bit and didn't wait too long to send in the Elderlich. It could have been a lot worse. Taylar says. Ainz looks at Albedo to see if she's going to add anything. It looks like she is biting her lip and clenching her fists together. Albedo, would you like to add something? Ainz asks her. I do not.
She says.
Anger clearly about to boil over. Albedo, I told you I could sense your feelings. Tell me what you think of that battle. Ainz tells her. That was a pathetic display. Even if he is not a commander, a warrior should already know that an army needs a commander on site. If he continues like this, he only has maybe a 30% chance to win the next battle. If he does not change his tactics, it is more like 10%. I know you told me to stay out of it, but please, Lord Mamanga, let me take command. I cannot let you or Nazarick lose to something as pathetic as these lizardmen, she replies. We need to give Cocytus time to see if he learned Albedo. You cannot write him off after just one battle. Taylar tells her. You are both right, of course. That was a pathetic attempt on his part, and we must give him a chance to correct his mistake, but the most important thing is Nazarick can never know defeat. I have not known defeat since Touch Me defeated me in the World Tournament, and even he could not defeat me after I became the Grim Reaper. It will take Cocytus one day to march to the next village. I will give him until then to correct his mistake and ask for more reinforcements, or I will handle it myself. Ainz says to them, You do not need to go yourself, love. Any in Nazarick would gladly destroy them for you. Albedo says, That is precisely why I need to go. We are not here to rule over piles of bones and graveyards. I will test them, and I need to be there so I know who I can take advantage of when the test is complete. Being able to sense people's emotions seemed bothersome at first, but it is incredibly useful now that I have practiced with it. Ainz tells Albedo. Yeah, I thought having the ability to sense life was rather annoying at first, but it is very handy at times. Taylar says. Hopefully, it won't come to that, and Cocytus will figure it out. Ainz is about to say something else when he is interrupted by a message. Lord Ainz, it is Aura. We have a situation, Supreme One. What is it, Aura? I was mapping the forest like you asked, Supreme One, and came across a small army of various races. Trolls, goblins, nagas, bargus, things like that, Lord Ainz. I don't see the problem, Aura. They seem to have joined together and are headed in the direction of the village you are protecting. Do you mean Carne village, Aura? Yes, Lord Ainz. How many of them are there, and how long until they reach the village? There is around 1,000 of them. Too much vibration from all them to get an exact count. If they keep up this pace, they will be there in about 45 minutes. If you started attacking and they started running to their destination, how long until they reach the village? I would estimate about 20 minutes until they arrive, but I would only be able to take out about half of them before they reached the village, Lord Ainz. Good. Wait 5 minutes, then begin attacking and directing them towards the village. Once you near the treeline, stay in the forest and don't let any escape, Aura. Yes, Lord Ainz. Yuri Alpha, come here, please. Ainz says towards the door. The door opens and Yuri steps through and kneels before Lord Ainz. What do you need, Lord Ainz? Yuri says. Do you know where all the Pleiades are currently located? Ainz asks her. Yes, Lord Ainz. I have them in their rooms cleaning up and studying the book my lord so graciously gave me. Yuri replies. Always the teacher, Yuri. You definitely live up to being the vice captain of the Pleiades. How would you and your sisters like to get some exercise? He asks her. We are always ready to serve Lord Ainz. Yuri replies. A small army of trolls, goblins, and other such creatures are targeting Carne village. A village under our protection. Would you and your sisters like to show them the power of Nazarick? It would be our honor, Lord Ainz. Yuri's head practically fell off her body at how excited she answered. Taylar, Albedo, would you two like to come to watch the Pleiades teamwork? Ainz asks the two. Absolutely. Albedo says. I can't wait to see it. Taylar says. Oriole. Yes, father. I am bringing the Pleiades to come to see you. They will be doing battle for Nazarick, and I wish for you to participate. Yay. I can't wait, father. All right, now that we have that settled, let's go get your sisters and visit Oriole. I want to see what the Pleiades are capable of when you all work together. Ainz says to Yuri. Ainz had a smile on his face thinking about what is going to transpire. After watching Cocytus battle, he needed to watch a trouncing by Nazarick to lift his spirits, and the Pleiades could gain some experience. Hopefully, at least one of them would level. Narbril was leveling quicker than he anticipated considering the number of things she killed. He placed his hand on Yuri's shoulder and teleported them to the Pleiades wing of the 9th floor. Carne village. Enri looked up from the field she was working in. When she saw the position of the sun, she realized she should have gone and started dinner over an hour ago. Ever since she had lunch with Lady Taylar earlier in the day, she had felt incredible. The only other time she remembered feeling this good was after Lady Taylar had cast that spell called Heal on her. It felt like she could keep going on for another 12 hours if she had to at this rate. She figured she could keep going for another hour or two. They could certainly use the extra time to catch up a bit, and everyone else didn't seem to notice the time either because they were working away like Enri was. As soon as she decided, she was about to head back to work when she saw a goblin running at her at full speed. The goblin stopped right in front of her and tried to get out through his heavy breathing. Elder sister, there is a small army of trolls, goblins, barghists, and other such races on their way towards the village, the scout says. Did you say there is a small army headed this way? Enri almost yells. Mr. Jugum, the leader of Enri's goblins, heard what the scout said and came right over to talk to both of them. Elder sister, we need to get you out of here if that many are coming. We will not be able to beat back that many. We can buy everyone time to escape though. I'm not leaving you guys here to die. We can figure something out. How long until they get here? Enri asks. They are pretty much running, so about 15 minutes give or take, the scout replies. All right, get the women, children, and elderly to gather at the back gate. Anyone who has made decent progress during your archery training will do what we have been practicing and draw them to the front gate. Once we have their attention to the front gate, everyone else can sneak out the back gate. How does that sound? Enri says. That's a good strategy, boss. Go grab Nemu and head to the back gate. We will get set up. Jugum says to Enri. No, I am not leaving you here alone. I will get Nemu, then meet you on the tower. Enri says. She doesn't give Jugum any time to argue and takes off towards the house where Nemu should be. She had to get Infiria and Lizzie too. They needed to get out of here too, and she wanted them to take Nemu with them. She grabbed Nemu and headed to Infiria's house and banged on the door until he opened it. Oh, hi, Enri. What's th? Infiria is cut off. Infiria, there is a small army coming towards the village. Get your grandmother and take Nemu to the back gate, please. Enri says. What about you, Enri? Why don't you take her? Infiria asks. I need to help the goblins draw the army to the front gate. We will run once everyone is out and into the woods. Enri tells him. I'm going to help you, Enri. I have some potions here that will help for sure. Infiria responds. Okay, Infiria. Meet me at the watchtower at the front gate when you are ready. They will be here in 15 minutes, so you have about 5 to get ready. Enri says. She lets go of Nemu's hand and leaves her with Infiria so she can go to the goblins. She had no idea where she got all this courage or ability to think clearly during a situation like this. She knew she couldn't let that army take this village, or they would have been saved for nothing. She would defend her home from attackers and try to never feel helpless again. She got to the watchtower and looked over the situation with Jugum. He was explaining to her how they were going to draw their attention to them and hold them off long enough for everyone else to flee. Right as he was getting to the end of his explanation, Nephiria showed up as well. "Mr. Jurgum, can your archers throw things as well as they shoot?" Nephiria asks. "They will be slightly less accurate, but not by much." "Why, Mr. Nephiria?" he asks. "I have alchemy potions here that will release glue in an area when broken. It will hold the goblins and Bargus in place for a while, but it will only slow down the trolls for a couple of seconds. You can use them when they get to the gate." Nephiria says, "That will help a lot. You should take Enri and head to the back gate. We can take it from here."
Jugum says,
"We are not leaving, Mr. Jugum." Enri says not so gently, as she says that to him the small army breaks through the trees. They are running straight towards the village. Luckily for them, they were pretty close to the front gate when they first emerged from the forest, but after just a few seconds they saw it was hundreds of them, and they took up quite the space side to side. They had no idea how to get all of them to one gate. Surely one or two would get around, and that would be the end for people who couldn't defend themselves. Right as they were racking their brains for a solution, Enri saw a familiar sight open in the sky a couple 100 feet in front of the wall. It was a black and dark purple oval, the same one their saviors came through the first time they were here. She stared at it, praying they would come through again. She didn't want to watch more people die again. She saw her prayers answered when she saw Lord Ainz come out of the portal first. He was followed by Lady Taylar, Lady Albedo, then 6 women in maid outfits. She noticed one of them as Lupus Regina, but had never seen the other 5 before. Lady Taylar landed right beside her while Lord Ainz and Lady Albedo just hovered above the maids who had gracefully landed on the ground. "I see you stayed to defend your home, Enri. I am very proud of you," Taylar says. "I just didn't want your saving us to mean nothing, Lady Taylar." Enri says, "Well, don't worry about that now. Our servants will handle this for you," Taylar says. "Bibi, but there is only 6 of them, and hundreds of them." Enri can't believe just the maids are going to fight. She realized Lupus Regina was more than she let on, but this didn't seem possible. "Yeah, not really fair. Maybe if it was a couple thousand it might be even, but those guys don't stand a chance with those odds," Taylar says to her. Enri and Nephiria's jaws both just almost hit the floor. They were stunned silent and had no idea what to say to that comment. A couple thousand to make it even. How powerful were they really? "Oriel, go ahead and cast your magic." "Yes, Father." Mass Bulls, Strength Mass Bears, Endurance Mass Cats, Grace Mass Protection from Elements Mass Shield of Faith Mass, Focus Magic Mass Bless of Magic Caster Mass Conceal Life Mass, Draconic Power Mass False Data Life Mass Field of Force Mass Greater Luck Mass Greater Shield Mass Greater Magic Vision Mass Infinity Wall Mass Magic Weapon Mass Fly Mass Woodland Strider Haste. "Try to leave me some bodies, ladies. Show them the power of Nazarick," Ainz announces to them. He flies over to the newly built watchtower and lands on the wall just outside the tower. Albedo lands right next to him. "Nice to see you again, Enri and Nephiria. Sorry, it is under these circumstances, but the Pleiades will handle it from here." "Thank you, Lord Ainz, Lady Taylar, Lady Albedo," Enri says, and kneels. "There's no need for that, Enri. We told you we would protect you, and we stick to our word." Ainz says to her. "Shall we, sisters?" Yuri Alpha says. "Yes, sister," the Pleiades respond. Yuri, Solution, and Lupus Regina charge right at the oncoming horde. Narbril, Shizu, and Intoma fly straight up into the sky when their sisters take off. They were going to target the back lines of this horde to prevent any from escaping while their sisters met them head-on in melee combat. When Ainz asked Narbril if she wanted to put her levels into Doppelganger or Magic Caster, Narbril decided on Castor. Ainz assured her that Doppelganger would be useful as well, but Narbril thought being able to cast higher-tier magic would show the might of Nazarick was growing more. When the Pleiades were informed of this battle, Ainz asked Narbril to start off with her newly learned Tier 8 spell. She was more than happy to oblige. Witness the ever-growing power of Nazarick insects. Narbril says from the sky. Twin. Maximize magic. Lightning storm. As Narbril finishes her spell, dark clouds form in an instant over a 300-foot area. Normally, this spell cast as a twin would only cover a 200-foot area, but after Oriel's buff spells, all of Narbril's spells were 50% more effective in every aspect. Lightning strikes come down in the area one after another. It is so blinding by the number of them, the villagers and goblins have to look away. When their vision clears, they see almost 100 of the invaders laying dead on the ground, reduced to nothing but crispy corpses. Well, I asked her to start with her new spell, but I didn't think it would be that effective. Ainz says to no one in particular. Antoma had been drawing bugs into her sleeve the entire time Narbril was casting her spell. The moment it ended, she unleashed her own ability. Bug machine gun. A torrent of steel bugs shaped like bullets tore into the ranks of the army as Antoma swept her arm from side to side. All the creatures caught in her hail of bullets were reduced to Swiss cheese except the trolls. When the steel rain was over, nearly 50 creatures lay dead on the ground filled with holes. Shizu had flown up in between her two caster sisters. While they were busy casting spells and using their class abilities, she was steadily picking off creatures that were trying to spread the formation out too far. She was looking down her sights with her weapon on semi-automatic 1, 2, 3, for she counts off her kills. By the time Antoma had finished her ability, you could hear Shizu saying 30, 31, 32. Solution had charged at the army just like Yuri and Lupus Regina did, taking the right side of the enemy formation. Unlike her sisters charging with her, Solution was not well versed in melee combat. She was reaching into her maid outfit at a blinding speed, throwing 3 darts at a time every time she pulled her hands out. When she reached the first line, she quickly transformed her fingers to resemble syringes and began stabbing goblins and ogres through the throat with her fingers laced with a poison of her own making. Yuri charged the formation right up the center with her hands spread out wide from herself. As she was moving forward, light particles began to collect in the palms of her outstretched hands. When she got 10 feet from the front lines, she unleashed her attack as a spread. It made it weaker, but she knew it would be effective against this level of enemies. A shock wave unleashes from her hands as she brings them together in front of her. About 20 goblins and bargists are sent backward and to the ground by the force of the wave. She quickly moves in and begins finishing them off with one perfectly placed strike after another, their heads exploding at the sheer force of her fist colliding with their skulls. Lupus Regina charged the left side of the formation with her sisters. She was much slower than both Solution and Yuri, but her build was not meant for speed. She was a battle cleric by trade. Someone who could heal the party, but hold her own in melee combat. Right as she was about to come in contact with the front line, she decided to have some fun with them. Complete invisibility. Lupus Regina completely disappears from the goblins, ogres, and bargist sights. They're all looking around wondering what just happened when they hear a voice from behind them. Flame strike. They all hear. They turn around only to be met with a column of fire and light descending from the sky. They all scream out in pain as they are consumed by the intense heat of the fire and light pillar. Lupus Regina smiles while she pulls out her holy weapon at the sound of her toys enjoying her surprise. She swings her oversized holy weapon in an arc around her and begins to wade her way through the ranks, crushing enemies with the sheer strength and weight of her weapon impacting them. As the Pleiades engage, everyone sees 4 figures emerge from the forest. A warrior in black full plate wielding 2 greatswords, A woman in a brown cloak with black hair tied in a ponytail, a woman with green eyes and blonde hair in a single braid, and a woman with black hair and blue eyes wearing white full plate without a helmet. Enri, the goblins, and most of the villagers recognized them as the adventurers who came to the village the first time with Enfiria. Enfiria was wondering how in the hell there were two Lord Ainz, Lady Taylar, Lady Albedo, and Lady Narbrals. They began engaging the enemies from the back, working their way towards the center of the formation. Narbral, Shizu, and Intoma noticed their sisters making their way through the ranks. Narbral and Intoma switched to using spells and abilities that don't cover such a large area, so they don't hit their sisters with them. Shizu continues to pick off stragglers trying to get outside the formation 70, 71, 72. Teleportation. Narbral appears on the left flank of the formation, looking down the length of the small army. She holds her finger out and casts another spell. Lightning. The lightning bolt tears apart the air as it extends 60 feet out from her fingertip, killing anything that comes into contact with it. Spider Talisman. Intoma yells out and throws 5 pieces of parchment towards the formation. As they impact the ground, 5 enormous black spiders appear where the parchment hit the ground. Intoma directs them to attack, and the spiders begin to go to work. They are the equivalent of a Tier 3 summon monster spell. Normally, they would just be used to buy time, but Intoma knew from the enemy attacks, these spiders would be able to kill most of the creatures here with no problem. Sharp Cutting Talisman. Intoma says, and 3 goblins are cut in half by the air. Dragon Lightning. Narbral says, directing her lightning bolt farther into the formation, wiping out an entire row of the enemy. The goblins, ogres, bargus, and trolls realize there is no way to win this, as almost 75% of them have already been killed, and they haven't even reached the gate yet. The remaining creatures turn to flee, but the Pleiades are having none of that. These creatures dared to attack a village under the Supreme Being's protection, and they will all pay with their lives. As they start chasing down the creatures fleeing, Ainz calls out to them. That is enough, Pleiades. You have done a magnificent job already, he tells them. But Lord Ainz, those creatures must pay for attacking what is under your protection. Yuri says. It is okay, Yuri. They're not getting away. Aura is waiting for them in the forest. Ainz says with a smile on his face. It was good to witness such a display from the Pleiades. He needed something like this to pick him up after watching Cocytus. As you command, Lord Ainz. Yuri replies and begins to gather her sisters to make their way back to their lord. Oriole Omega, you did a great job. Your mother and I will be by later to see you, Ainz says to the sky. All of the villagers and goblins are looking around wondering who in the world he is talking to. Then, to all their surprises, the sky answers Lord Ainz. I can't wait, Father,
Oriole says.
Ella, Lord Ainz, you have a daughter? Enri almost yells. Yes we do. She takes after her mother and is a Miko priestess like Taylar, but she specializes in certain types of spells, unlike Taylar. I believe you call them diviners here. We call them seers, he says to the girl. He looks over at Taylar to see her reaction. This was the first time he said they were a family, and she had never told him about her backstory, so he wanted to see how she would react to such a statement. He was not disappointed when he looked at her. She was blushing and acting shy. It was adorable, and it was also payback for all the times she teased him. Why are you acting so shy, Mama? Are you not proud of our little girl? Ainz can see her reaction is even better than the first one. He was going to tease her a little more, but decided to stop while he was ahead, and her prodigy-level teasing mind caught up to him. He just gave her a wink and smile he knew she loved to see. Sorry I never told you. I was too embarrassed when I created her. It's okay. I just wish I knew when we came here, so I could have spent more time with her. We have plenty of time to make up for that, though. I can't wait. Ainz directs the Pleiades to clean up the corpses. They would be good to add to his army. He plays the role of interacting with Mammon and allows them to take some of the years to take back to the Adventurer Guild. They plan to be gone and not available for questions after they filled out their report under the guise of heading for a job in the Baharuth Empire. They were going there after, but no one needed to know they could teleport there and back in moments. It would cause the delay in the kingdom finding out about them coming across Ainz' old gown that Ainz wanted for his plans. Judging from how long it took information to pass from Eorantil to the capital, he figured they would have their adamantite plates and be on their way to the Empire before they could send anyone from the capital to question them. That was all the delay Ainz needed for what he wanted to do. Ainz' office on the 10th floor the next day. It was almost lunchtime, and Ainz was just finishing up the last of the reports he had to go over for the day. Taylar and Albedo should be there shortly for their surprise. He was rather excited about this himself. It was the closest thing he could get to vacation for now, so he was going to enjoy it while he could. Ainz hears a knock at the door, and Taylar and Albedo are announced by Fiore. She lets both of them in, and they both seem excited at the prospect of another surprise from Ainz. "You two are right on time. Are you ready?" Ainz asks them. "Yes, we are. You still haven't told us what we are doing," Taylar says to him. He just smiles at them.
Asterisk gate asterisk.
They appear on the 6th floor. Taylar and Albedo are looking around wondering what they are doing here when Ainz casts another spell.
Asterisk gate asterisk.
They see the second gate open, and after a few seconds, Oriole Omega steps through from the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary onto the 6th floor. Taylar is excited to see her little girl and quickly gives her a hug. "Hey baby, what are you doing here?" Taylar asks. "Father said it's family picnic day," Oriole tells her. They all look at Ainz, and he just has a smile on his face. It was nice to surprise them every once in a while. He still was working on the teasing, so this was going to have to do for the reactions he could get out of him. "Well, we have to get back to Eorantil tomorrow, and after we are headed to the Empire. I figured this would be the best time to spend some time together before we left. I cleared everyone's schedule until after dinner and sent the Pleiades to take care of the 3 monster requests we accepted in the city." Ainz tells them, "You definitely are the best," Taylar, Albedo, and Oriole all say. Restaurant, 9th floor Nazarick. Ainz, Taylar, Albedo, and Oriole were just finishing up dinner. There were also 4 homunculi maids with them, but it was a trade-off Ainz had to take. The only way he got them to back down on leaving them unattended for so long on the 6th floor was to agree there would be a maid for each of them during dinner. It wasn't that Ainz minded them being there. They were quiet the whole time unless they needed to speak, but he had to watch what he said when they were around. When he found out how the Guardians were planning world domination before he ever let them know, it was because of Lupus Regina and Narbril the first time they went out. When he found out how everyone in Nazarick knew he held hands with Albedo the first time, it was the maids. It seemed like the maids of Nazarick were like some of the ones he used to see on TV. They loved their gossip. Right as they are about to eat dessert, something pops into Taylar's mind that she had completely forgotten about because of the great day she had been having. "Oh crap, shouldn't have Cositis made it to the Lizardmen village like 4 hours ago?" she asks. "Oh no, I delayed that situation right before you showed up for lunch. I halted his undead about 30 minutes from the village and told him to wait until I told him to continue. I figured I would give him some more time to think about what he is doing. He at least rearranged the formation and has the Elder Lich with the unit, so it is not all bad." Ainz said. "It is good to see he is learning," Taylar says. "Well, don't get too excited. He still hasn't even realized the next village is empty. I was hoping he would use the time to scout with the mirror of remote viewing," Ainz says. "So, are we going to see him after Desert Then Love?" Albedo asks. "I am. You 3 have an appointment after this," Ainz says. "Oh, what appointment would that be?" Taylar asks. "Did you know there is a beauty salon on this floor? Apparently, everyone believes it is only for the supreme beings, so Claire is quite lonely waiting for customers. I told her you three would stop by and see her.
Ainz says to them.
You aren't going to go deal with the Lizardmen alone while we are getting our nails done, are you? Taylar asks while wagging her finger at him. It would be just like him to try and do something like that and tell them it was because he didn't want to risk them getting injured or worse. No, I have already scouted the Lizardmen and have seen what they are doing. We have other things to attend to in the meantime, so I will let them gather their forces for now. When we are back from the Empire and the Riestei's kingdom, we will deal with them together. Ainz says to both of them.
Ugh.
Then let's finish up dinner, so us girls can go spend some time together.
Taylar says to them.
They all finish up their ice cream and head their separate ways. Ainz to go talk to Cocytus and the three ladies to see Claire. Fake Nazarick Cocytus Command Center. Cocytus had been sitting at the table in the fake Nazarick for what felt like an eternity, replaying what Lord Ainz had said to him. He was going over every aspect of the battle he could remember, trying to come up with a better way to approach the next battle. He had already rearranged his formations and put the Elder Lich in charge of the unit, so they wouldn't be falling into any holes this time. He also planned to send the riders around to flank the enemy when the time came to start, so they would have to split their forces, and the battle would go much smoother. He knew the Supreme Being had to see his new formation, yet he stopped his march regardless. Cocytus couldn't think of any reason even after all the thinking he had been doing the last few hours. He did the only thing he could think of that he didn't try yet.
Demiurge, are you
available? Yes, my friend. What is it?
I wish for your
insight
on
a matter I am
trying to
resolve. I will help you the best I can, Cocytus. Tell me what is troubling you, my friend. Cocytus proceeded to explain to Demiurge the events of the last 2 days. He told him about the first battle against the Lizardmen and how Cocytus had underestimated the Lizardmen' bravery and warrior spirits, how he almost lost the battle and would have probably if not for him sending in the Elder Lich, how he had rearranged his formations and included the Elder Lich as a commander this time to avoid the mindless undead from falling into traps. Demiurge listened intently the entire time Cocytus was talking to him. It was not easy for someone like Demiurge to make a genuine friend, and that was exactly what Cocytus was. He would help him in any way he possibly could. It would also be helping Nazarick in the process, and that was something that pleased Demiurge to no end. After he heard Cocytus' story, he had a few things he thought might be helpful and wasted no time giving his friend some advice. I have a couple things that might help. First, do you remember the first order Lord Ainz gave when we were brought to this world, Cocytus? Demiurge asks.
He gathered
U.S.
on the
6th floor.
Cocytus says.
No, my friend. He ordered Seabass to scout the area around Nazarick. Your first problem is that you lacked intelligence. Demiurge tells him. I know. I don't possess your intellect. Demiurge.
Boo.
No, my friend. I'm not referring to your level of intelligence. I mean intel, information, knowledge. If you would have scouted the Lizardmen village before, do you think you would have spotted the holes your undead fell into?
Yes, but
I was
not given
scouts
in my
unit. True, but you were given a mirror of remote viewing, or maybe Lord Ainz was hoping you would ask for a unit to do recon since you had none. Have you thought about why Lord Ainz gave you such a weak unit to conquer the Lizardmen? Because
Lord
Ainz
could have
defeated
the
Lizardmen with
such
a unit. What Cocytus said to Demiurge wasn't really a statement. He honestly had no idea now that he thought about it. Lord Ainz could probably win with such a unit, but Cocytus couldn't see conquering all the Lizardmen villages with just this unit alone. While I'm sure Lord Ainz could conquer the Lizardmen with a few words, that is not the point. Lord Ainz puts information and strategy above all else when he engages in combat. He would have already known you could not win with such a unit. I believe Dash.
Demiurge.
I must.
Go.
Think. You. Cocytus interrupted Demiurge and the excellent points he was making because Lord Ainz had just appeared in front of Cocytus, Aura, Mare, and Intoma, who were all in the fake Nazarick with him. They all immediately get up and kneel before Lord Ainz. You may rise, Ainz says with a regal movement of his hands. He was getting pretty good at this ruling thing, especially considering he was picking all of this up from books. After they all raised their heads, Ainz continued. Tell me, Cocytus, what have you been doing these last few hours your troops have been halted? Ainz asks him. I have
Been.
going over
My.
strategy.
Lord.
Ainz. Cocytus says.
Oh.
Tell me then, other than your new formation and sending a commander in at the start, what have you thought of? Ainz asked. The first answer Cocytus gave was exactly what Ainz wanted to hear. After consulting
With. Demiurge.
I was going
To. Scout. The.
next village
With. The.
mirror
You.
provided
And. Use.
a different
Attack.
strategy, my lord. That is a good start, Cocytus. Do you remember what I told you when I gave you the orders to subjugate the Lizardmen? Ainz asks him.
You. Told. Me. To.
Order.
My. Troops.
To victory.
Lord.
Ainz. Cocytus replies to him. That is only half right, Cocytus. I told you to figure out what you needed to obtain victory and order your troops to victory. Can you conquer all the Lizardmen tribes with the unit I provided, Cocytus? Ainz says.
Not. With. The.
Losses. I already sustained.
Lord.
Ainz. Cocytus replies, shame obvious in his voice. You wouldn't have been able to conquer them even if you lost no troops in your last battle, Cocytus. I wanted you to think like a general, not a warrior. I was a little disappointed at the start, but I am glad to see you making such progress in such a short time. How did you plan to attack the next village, since you changed your strategy? Ainz asks him. This is actually more of a trick question because the next village was empty. I was
Going. To. Send. The.
riders into a flanking maneuver around
The.
BAC dash. Cocytus is interrupted by Ainz. That is why I stopped you, Cocytus. I am glad you figured out you needed to do recon, but the next village is already completely abandoned. You would be attacking the air if you used that strategy. Ainz tells him. Cocytus just hangs his head in shame. He had disappointed the Supreme One. The only graver sin would be to betray the Supreme Being. Cocytus needed to atone for this somehow. He kneels again before Lord Ainz with his head low. I have disappointed.
You. My. Lord. I will.
Atone.
With. My. Life. If. You. Will.
It.
Cocytus says to him.
Ainz can tell he is not joking. This was the last thing he wanted to come out of this test. There is no need for such action, Cocytus. I set you up to fail from the start, hoping you would ask for assistance. I need all of you to be able to think for yourselves if Nazarick is going to truly shine in this world. The fact you have learned so much in such a short time is exactly what I wanted to have happened. Ainz tells him. Thank
You. For. Your.
mercy, Supreme.
One.
I shall.
Not. Fail. You.
Again. Cocytus replies. I told you, Cocytus. I set you up to fail. It is not your doing. I would like you to stay here and continue the march of the undead to the next villages, just at a much slower pace. They sent out a lone runner from the 4th village on a hydra to try and unite all their tribes together to fight your unit. I will give them the necessary time to band together what forces they can, then I will go see these Lizardmen myself. And Toma, You and CZ will report to Yuri Alpha about your assignment in Ainz. Cocytus will be helping with Nazarick security while you are away with Mare. Ainz tells everyone. Of
Course.
Supreme. 1. I shall.
Do. Your.
Will.
Cocytus says.
Yes, my lord. Everyone else says. Oh, one last thing. Once we have dealt with the Lizardmen, I want you to see Titus in the library about some books I will tell him to lend you. When Demiurge has some time, I would like for you to get together with him to discuss battle strategy, scenarios, and other various things with him. He is the defense commander of Nazarick and will have much knowledge you could benefit from Cocytus. Ainz tells the insect, then teleports away. 8th floor Cherry Blossom Sanctuary. Oriole and Demiurge are sitting in the sanctuary going over her reports of the Holy Kingdom and slain theocracy. This had become an everyday thing for Demiurge since his restriction to the 8th floor had been lifted. He not only got to realize how correct Lady Taylar was about Oriole's scrying abilities, but it also afforded him the time to get to know the heir of Nazarick, much to his delight. Oriole didn't mind the company. The only other being that wasn't her father or mother who spent any time with her was Albedo, since she also resided on the 8th floor. While she hadn't minded the company, she was getting pretty annoyed with Demiurge constantly calling her the heir of Nazarick. The last thing Oriole wanted was to rule Nazarick. She wasn't super happy about being stuck on the 8th floor most of the time, but if getting to leave meant she had to rule Nazarick, she would rather spend all her time here. As she was about to tell Demiurge for the 1000th time today not to call her the heir of Nazarick, she felt someone teleport to the front door of the sanctuary. She knew from the aura of power she could sense it could only be one person. She shot up from her sitting position across from Demiurge and ran straight for the door. Ainz had just teleported from the fake Nazarick to the Cherry Blossom Sanctuary to speak with Demiurge. He only had a few moments left before he, Taylar, Albedo, and Narbril were going to be leaving for Irantal. He had been meaning to speak with Demiurge since he witnessed Shaltir create one of her vampire brides. Now that Demiurge was going to be in Nazarick for a few months of planning, he saw this as his best opportunity to speak with him and get his help for the experiments he wanted to try. As he was reaching for the door to open it, he sensed a being filled with an enormous amount of excitement and happiness running straight for the door. He already knew what to expect when opening the door and braced himself for the impact that was sure to follow. Just as he anticipated, Oriole came crashing into him and wrapped her arms around him for a hug. He returned the hug and looked down at her. "Hello, daughter. Did you miss me?" Ainz says with a smile on his face. "Yes, father. I haven't seen you in forever," Oriole says excitedly. "We spent all day together yesterday, Oriole. Surely you didn't miss me that much?" Ainz says to her. "Of course I did, father. I always miss you and mother when you leave." "Where is mother?" she says to him. "She is getting ready to leave for Irantal with us. I came to talk to Demiurge about some things. I heard he was here and has been visiting you quite a bit." Ainz says. "Yes, Demiurge is here, father. Can you please tell him to stop calling me the heir of Nazarick?" she pleads with him. "Well, technically, you are the heir to Nazarick, so he isn't wrong there, but I won't make you take over Nazarick if you don't want to." Ainz says to her. "I don't. That seems like too much work, father," she says. This gets a chuckle out of Ainz, especially considering how much she has been doing since they arrived here. If he thinks about it, she has probably done more work than he has, but no reason to let her know that. "I need to speak with Demiurge for a little bit before leaving Oriole. Would you like to go say goodbye to your mother, Albedo, and Narbril?" Ainz asks her. "I would love to if that is all right with you, father," she says very happily. "Yes, it is fine. You can return after I am finished speaking with Demiurge." Ainz tells her.
Asterisk gata asterisk.
Oriole steps through the gate to say bye to Taylar, Albedo, and Narbril. Ainz turns his attention to Demiurge, who had been kneeling the entire time he had been speaking with Oriole. Ainz didn't even notice at first, but quickly told him to rise. "Demiurge, I have a few things I would like to discuss with you before I leave. Do you have a few minutes? Ainz asks. Of course, Supreme One. I always have time for the ruler of Nazarick and greatest of the supreme beings. Demiurge says to him. Good. First thing I would like to discuss is about Cocytus. As Ainz says this, he can tell Demiurge actually shows a little concern for Cocytus. After Ainz talked to Cocytus, he was pleasantly surprised that he contacted Demiurge for advice. That was the sort of thing Ainz was hoping Cocytus would do. Since Demiurge was the defense commander of Nazarick, he would have much more knowledge of battle tactics than Cocytus would. Judging from the look on Demiurge's face, he thought it was going to be something bad about Cocytus, but that wasn't why Ainz was here. As you know, Cocytus had some trouble giving orders from a different location to his troops and made some mistakes when engaging the Lizardmen. I am having him take over security for Mare while he is in the Pleiades capital. When you have time between planning and going over information with Oriol, I want you to teach Cocytus battle formations, ambush strategies, battle scenarios, things like that. I have a couple books I am lending to Cocytus to learn, but it would make it faster if you were there to help him. Ainz tells him, I shall teach Cocytus as much as I can, Lord Ainz.
Demiurge responds.
Good. Next is about some experiments I wish to conduct when I have time in Nazarick. I know you are big on experimentation and thought you would be best suited to help me with this. Do you still have some humans from your time in the Pleiades capital? Ainz asks. Yes, Lord Ainz. I have a few humans left from my time there. Demiurge replies. Fantastic. I had Aura capture some goblins, trolls, barghists, and other such creatures from the forest. I need some alive and some dead. I wish to try some experiments in undead creation that are different from my usual ability. Have you ever seen Sheltir create a vampire bride Demiurge? He asks the devil. No, Lord Ainz. I thought vampire brides were given to Sheltir by Nazarick. I was not aware she could create them. Demiurge replies. No, I witnessed her create one in the frozen prison. She used her blood, magic, and some negative energy to turn a still-alive human divine caster into a vampire bride in a matter of seconds. I wish to see if I can create undead like this, and if I can figure out if it is different undead based on race, gender, or if it is alive or dead while I do it. Can you spare some time for me to assist me in this? Ainz asks. Of course, Supreme One. I shall help in every way I possibly can. Demiurge says, completely excited at the possibility of helping his lord with the creation of new undead. Good. Last thing. Oriol really does not like being called the heir of Nazarick. Could you please just call her Oriol or Oriol Omega? Ainz asks him. But Lord Ainz, I cannot address the heir of Nazarick like that. The daughter of the last two supreme beings should be treated with the proper respect. Demiurge says. Ainz can tell Demiurge is damn serious about what he just said. The look in his eyes makes it seem like Ainz just told him he was leaving forever and never coming back. How about Lady Oriol then? Just lay off the heir of Nazarick title. Oriol has no interest in ruling Nazarick. She might change her mind one day, but we will cross that bridge when it comes to that. Ainz tells him. As you command, Lord Ainz. Demiurge replies. Do you have any questions for me before I depart, Demiurge? Ainz asks. No, Supreme One. I am still going over the information and have yet to start drafting my plans for these kingdoms. Demiurge responds. Very well, Demiurge. I look forward to your plans for these kingdoms, he replies.
Asterisk gate asterisk.
Ainz steps through his gate and appears outside the front of Nazarick. There are 3 wagons out front, each with one of the bodies of the monsters they were supposed to hunt for the guild. Ainz was originally going to just grab the items the receptionist told him they needed to get credit for the kills, but thought it would make a much bigger impact if he rolled up to the city with the whole corpse. He also found out he could sell most of the body parts to the Magician's Guild for materials. They use a great deal of each of these 3 creatures for magic items, potions, and other various things. He sees Taylar, Albedo, Narbrol, and Oriol standing near the carts talking to each other. Oriole runs up to him as soon as she sees him step through the gate just like she did on the 8th floor and crash into him with a hug. All three of the women standing near the carts have smiles on their faces as they watch him hug Oriole back. Taylar makes her way up to them to tease Ainz a bit before they leave. I wish she was that excited to see me every time I showed up. Taylar fake pouts as she makes her way to where Ainz and Oriole are standing. It seems your mother is upset that you are a daddy's girl, Ainz says to tease Taylar. He bends down and whispers in Oriole's ear. I think she needs a hug from both of us and a really, really tight one. As he finishes saying that, he gives Taylar a smirk. Ainz and Oriole quickly turn to Taylar and wrap her up tight in a hug. Ainz with his arms around her shoulders and Oriole with her arms around her. Waste. Taylar is happy with the sudden group hug and pats Oriole on the head. It is the only thing she can do at the moment with Ainz trapping her arms in his hug. Right as Ainz sends Oriole back and they are about to leave, Lupus Regina shows up. Lupus Regina, have you informed Enri that you will be gone for a couple of days? Taylar asks her. I have, Lady Taylar. I also have 2 pieces of new information for you and Lord Ainz concerning Carne Village, Supreme One. Lupus Regina says. Oh, what are they, Lupus Regina? Ainz asks. Well, Carne Village. Enri was out working in the fields in the morning like she always did. She had been at it for a couple of hours and was taking a quick break to gather herself. She was thinking about the events that unfolded yesterday and how it never seemed to be very boring or very safe around Carne Village recently. Her mind immediately thought of the feast Lady Taylar had created the day before for everyone to share during lunchtime. Enri had wondered since she saw the enormous table in the town square how Lady Taylar had created such food, and it only increased her curiosity when the table, food, and dishware had simply vanished just like she said it would. When she got the opportunity to ask Lady Taylar later in the evening how she made it, she told her it was a Miko spell called Hero's Feast. From what Enri gathered, Mikos were like priestesses from Lady Taylar's homeland. Apparently, it was used to give people buffs for things like endurance, strength, and constitution. It explained why Enri had felt so fantastic all day even though she had been working really hard in the fields. When Lady Taylar had explained to her there was a higher tier spell known as Pavilion of Grandeur that could feed 1,000 people, instead of the 150 heroes feast fed, her jaw nearly fell off, it dropped so quickly. Enri then remembered what brought Lady Taylar to Carne Village last night, and a shiver went down her spine. Enri thought about what would have happened if Lord Ainz, Lady Taylar, Lady Albedo, and their maids had not shown up. There was no way her, Enri, the goblins, and a handful of villagers could have held off that army of monsters. Flashback right after the Pleiades made their first attacks. Well, I asked her to start with her new spell, but I didn't think it would be that effective. Ainz says to no one in particular. What kind of Ella lightning spell was TT that? Enri had asked, not really directed at anyone in particular. Oh, that's Lightning Storm, a tier 8 spell. Narble Gamma just learned it a little while ago. Ainz tells Enri. Tier 8. Even the 13 heroes couldn't cast magic that high. Enri replies. Neither could the slain theocracy's precious 6 gods. Taylar says. It was obvious from her tone of voice she did not care for the slain theocracy or their gods. Even Albedo was wondering how Lady Taylar knew the 6 pretender gods couldn't cast tier 8 magic. If that was indeed true, they were certainly not gods at all. Or maybe that was the difference between a god and a supreme being. Lady Taylar and Lord Ainz did tell her they used to hunt gods for fun. How do you know, TD, they couldn't, Lady Taylar? Enri asks. I thought there were only 4 gods, Lady Taylar. Enri asks at the same time. We have seen the statues of their 6 gods. They are from our homeland and came here before they could reach their maximum potential. That is how I know they couldn't cast tier 8 or higher magic in Enri. As for there being 6 and not 4 Enri, it is because the other 2 gods I am speaking of were heteromorphic beings. It wouldn't look good for a human supremacist country like the slain theocracy to be worshipping an undead like Sir Shauna, would it? Taylar replies to them. Why you knew Titi the Six Gods? Nephyria says. I only knew one, to be honest, Aloe laugh. Lord Ainz knew Sir Shauna and Chikyu, god of earth. He would know more about those two than I would. Taylar says. Does that mean you can cast higher than Tier 9 Magic Lady Taylar and Lord Ainz? Enri asks. Taylar looks over at Ainz, wondering if he minds if she tells them she can cast super tier magic. As they make eye contact, Ainz just shrugs his shoulders as if to say, go ahead, they already know a ton about us. Lord Ainz and I can cast magic up to what is called super tier. The slain theocracy calls it god-level magic, but it is just one step above tier 10. Taylar says to Enri. For the second time in only a few minutes, Enri and Nephyria's jaws almost fall off after hearing that. They had known they could use up to tier 9 based off what Enri told Nephyria she heard Lady Taylar say to Lord Ainz when they first came to this village, but to think there was a tier 10 and one even higher called super tier left them in a state of shock. Enri finally composed herself enough to ask the question she really wanted to know now that she learned all this about them. Are you gods, Lady Taylar? Lord Ainz? Enri asks. No, we are not gods, Enri. Ainz quickly says to her. Lord Ainz and Lady Taylar used to hunt gods for fun. They are not something as weak as a god. They are supreme beings, Enri Amat. Albedo says to them. Is that TT true, Lord Ainz? You used to hunt gods for fun. Nephyria asks. Shit, we should have never told Albedo about hunting down the Greek and Egyptian gods for their materials to make the staff of Ainz' old gown. Ainz and Taylar both think at the same time. Well, yes, sort of. Some things can only be made by the material and items dropped from a god. Ainz says, really regretting they said that. He has a good idea where this is going to lead people, and like Taylar, he isn't a big fan of religion. Luckily, he is saved from having to answer any more questions about being a god since the battle outside the village is finally over. That is enough, Pleiades. You have done a magnificent job already, he tells them. But Lord Ainz, those creatures must pay for attacking what is under your protection. Yuri says. It is okay, Yuri. They are not getting away. Aura is waiting for them in the forest. Ainz says with a smile on his face. It was good to witness such a display from the Pleiades. He needed something like this to pick him up after watching Cocytus. As you command, Lord Ainz. Yuri replies and begins to gather her sisters to make their way back to their lord. Oriole Omega, you did a great job. Your mother and I will be by later to see you. Ainz says to the sky. All of the villagers and goblins are looking around wondering who in the world he is talking to. Then, to all their surprises, the sky answers Lord Ainz. I can't wait, Father. Oriole says. Ella, Lord Ainz, you have a daughter? Enri almost yells. Yes we do. She takes after her mother and is a Miko priestess like Taylar, but she specializes in certain types of spells, unlike Taylar. I believe you call them diviners here. We call them seers, he says to the girl. I'm going to check the Pleiades with Analyze to see if anyone leveled. Want to come with me, my loves? Ainz asks Taylar and Albedo. I would love to, Albedo says excitedly. I am going to check on the villagers. I will be with you shortly. Enri, would you like to come with me to make sure everyone is all right? Taylar says. It would be my honor, Lady Taylar. Enri replies with a bow to Lady Taylar. Taylar makes her way down the steps of the watchtower, followed closely by Enri. As they get to the bottom and are starting to make their way towards the back gate, Nemu comes running up to them. She runs right at Enri and gives her a big hug, seeing she is all right. Sis, you're all right, Nemu yells after hugging her. Yes, Nemu. Lady Taylar, Lord Ainz, Lady Albedo, and their friends came to help us. We are fine now, the battle is over. Enri tells the little girl. TT, thank you for saving us again, Nemu says as she turns to Taylar and gives a cute little curtsy to her. You are welcome, Nemu. We are here to protect you. Would you like to come with Enri and I to check on everyone else? Taylar asks her. Nemu quickly nods her head up and down, and Taylar extends her hand out to her for her to grab onto. Enri notices when Nemu grabs her hand that Lady Taylar seemed to smile a bit brighter than normal. She always looked like a goddess to Enri, but this smile made her seem more motherly and caring than normal. You coming to Enri? Taylar asks. Flashback end. Enri snaps out of her daydream from yesterday and is about to get back to work when she sees the village chief coming towards her. He waves to her to get her attention and walks right up to her. Hello, Enri, do you have a minute to talk with me? The chief says. Sure, chief. What do you need? Enri asks. Do you mind if we go someplace out of the sun? These old bones can't take the heat like they used to, he says. Chief, you are barely over 40 and you still work in the fields just fine. You are not that old. Enri says to the man. Well, I would rather sit down for this conversation. I believe you will want to as well, he tells Enri. Enri is wondering what the hell he is talking about. Why would she need to sit down for a conversation? The only thing she could think of was something happened to Nemu, but she was about 30 feet away helping the goblins with the fields. She figured it wouldn't hurt to go inside and chat for a bit. Sure, chief, lead the way, she says. They walk to the village chief's house, and he asks Enri to join him inside. Once they enter the house, Enri sees his wife moving around the living room. Before she can say hello, the village chief's wife beats her to it. Welcome, Enri. Would you like something to drink? She asks. I could use a water if you don't mind. Enri says she had been working in the field all morning and could use a drink right about now. No problem at all, Enri. I will be right back, she replies. The chief asks Enri to have a seat around the table so he can discuss this matter with her. As soon as she gets settled and around the table, the chief's wife comes back with her glass of water. Thank you, Enri says. No problem, Enri. I'll give you two some privacy. Call if you need anything, dear, she says and makes her way towards the back of the house. Okay, what is up with all the secrecy and privacy to talk? You are starting to freak me out, chief. Enri says. I don't mean to scare you, Enri, so I'll get right to the point. I have talked to the rest of the villagers, and we have come to an agreement. We think you should become the chief of Carne village, he says. Enri is just staring at him with a blank expression on her face. She has no idea how to process what he just told her. She was a simple 16-year-old village girl. Her be village chief? What in the world were the villagers thinking? Are all of you fucking retarded? I'm 16. What would I know about being a village chief? Enri yells at the top of her lungs. Calm down, Enri. His voice booms with the authority of being chief for the last 15 years. I know you are young, but if you think about it, you are the best choice for the job, the chief says. How in the world could I be the best option for this? Enri says. She stopped yelling, but you can hear the frustration in her voice. You were given an item from the gods to help out around here. When we learned of the army coming, you quickly thought of a strategy to get as many to safety as possible, and Lady Taylar seems to favor you and Nemu more than any others. We see her come to visit you. We know she always checks on us as well, but her first stop is always your house. Even the liaison, Lupus Regina, was told to talk to you, and me if we required anything. The chief gives his reasoning for their decision. Aye, Enri stutters out. You do not have to decide right now. Go take a walk, clear your head, and think about it. You can let me know when you are ready, Enri, the chief says. Enri doesn't say anything. She simply gets up and walks out of the house. She needed to go somewhere and think about this very hard. She still thought everyone was out of their minds. She needed to speak with someone else. It couldn't be one of the villagers. They had already decided she should be chief. Maybe she could talk to Enri. He was usually shut in his alchemy lab. Maybe he didn't know about it yet. Right when she was about to head towards where Enri was, she saw someone who would be just as good to talk to slowly descending from the sky. Lupus Regina. I really need to talk to you. Enri says as she runs straight for Lupus Regina, grabs her by the shoulders, and starts shaking her while repeating herself. Oh no, today is finally the day Enri has discovered she loves women and is going to rape me. Stay back, horny village girl, stay back, Lupus Regina says, making a cross with her fingers in front of Enri's face. Enri blushes at the implication once she realizes what Lupus Regina had said and quickly jumps back a step. They want to make me chief. What the hell are they thinking, Lapu? Enri quickly shuts her frustration to Lupus Regina. You are as good a choice as any, she says. How could you possibly think that? Enri says. There are only 41 perfect beings as far as I know. Everyone will make mistakes, but you learn from them also, so why not you? That doesn't make any sense. Enri says. Why don't you ask him, Lupus Regina says, and points down the path behind Enri. Enri turns around and sees Enfiria running right towards them. She can tell he is yelling something but can't make out what he is saying until he gets closer and she hears. Lupus Regina. Lupus Regina. I have something for Lord Ainz. Enfiria yells as he is running towards them. He finally makes it to her and starts panting, completely out of breath. He holds up a purple potion in front of Lupus Regina and finally catches his breath enough to talk. This is a new potion we made. I think it will revolutionize the potion industry. Can you please give it to Lord Ainz and ask if I should make more? Enfiria says. Sure, Enfiria. I'm sure Lord Ainz will be pleased. I'm actually here to tell Enri that I will be gone for a few days for Lord Ainz. Someone will be watching the forest for you, but pay attention anyway while I am gone. Bye Enri, Lupus Regina says. She gives Enri one of her smiles that makes her get confusing goosebumps on her skin. She doesn't know if it is turning her on because of how beautiful Lupus Regina is, or if that smile is terrifying like she's going to eat her. After watching Lupus Regina battle with the other maids, she had no doubt she could level this village if she felt like it. She then floats off into the sky. Enfiria, do you know about the villagers wanting to make me chief? Enri says, with a more forceful nature than she intended. ITT talked with the chief about it. He stutters out, noticing how angry she seems at the idea. Don't tell me you think I should be chief too? She asks.
Ida.
I'm sure the chief explained the reasons to you, he replies. I just don't think I can do it. I'm just a simple Vildash. You are not a simple village girl, Enri. Lady Taylar is right. You are special, very special. Especially to me, he thinks but doesn't say. There is another reason, one I didn't want to say, but I will. Please promise me you won't tell them I said this to you, Enri. Enfiria says. Who are you talking about, Enfiria? She asks him. The goblins, he says. Okay, I won't say anything to them, Enfiria, she responds. They were talking about knocking you out and carrying you and Nemu to safety before Lord Ainz, and everyone showed up. Enri gets a look of utter shock on her face from that statement. Don't hold it against them, Enri. They are summons. Their priority will always be your safety. If you become village chief, they will see the village as your property and defend it with their lives if need be, he tells her. I suppose this is what Lupus Regina meant when she said Lady Taylar expected great things from me. Everyone is going to help me, right, Enfiria, she says. We will help you the best we can, Enri, he says to her. Okay, I need to go tell the chief before I change my mind. Thank you, Enfiria. You are always such a good friend. Enri says. Anytime, Enri, he replies. Why can't I just tell her how I feel? I guess spending all my time locked inside isn't helping my cause here, he thinks. Back with everyone in front of Nazarick. Well, Enri is going to be named village chief tonight in a ceremony. I know Lady Taylar wanted to know anything happening with her. Also, Enfiria has created a new potion from the ingredients you gave to him, Lord Ainz. She holds up the purple potion for Ainz to take. I knew that girl would do something like that. I used Analyze on her when we were there. She has the same commander class Oriel has along with Sergeant and General already. She only has one level in each, but that is quite the combination for a farmer. Taylar says, "It looks like Nefiria made a brand new potion. One that isn't from Yggdrasil or from this new world. I'm going to have to see if he can make this potion using ingredients from this world only. You two seem to have taken an interest in different people since we came here. Taylar has Enri, Nemu, and Ninya. Albedo has the maids. Maybe I should find someone in this world to mentor like you two have." Ainz says, "Oh, did you have someone in mind? Nefiria, perhaps? You do talk to him more than anyone else not from Nazarick." Taylar replies to him, "No, I've never really been into alchemy. While I might be an arcane caster like Nefiria, I don't think he would be interested in my brand of magic, and I could never see him wielding a weapon. I bet Enri is probably 3 times stronger than he is. I need to find someone unique like myself. Someone who isn't a pure caster or pure combatant, but likes to mix the two together." Ainz says, "I'm sure someone will catch your fancy. We still have much of this world to explore. We should have Enri, Nemu, and Nefiria over for dinner to celebrate. From what Lupus Regina has told me, Nefiria is still too terrified to tell Enri how he feels. Maybe I could give them a push in the right direction." Taylar says, "That is fine with me, but we all know you just want to spend time with Nemu." Ainz laughs at the end of that. "Oh, you think so, huh?" Taylar says, "You spend all your free time with Oriole, Aura, Mare, Enri, and Nemu. We all know you like to be around children. I find it adorable myself." Ainz says as he watches Taylar blush from his statement. "I want a child." Albedo blurts out,
"I'm sorry."
"All that talk of children, just let that slip out. I apologize." Albedo finishes and gives a slight bow. "It's all right, Albedo." Taylar says. She elbows Ainz in the ribs when he doesn't say anything. "Ouch, it isn't like we aren't trying," he replies. That earns him another elbow from Taylar.
"What?"
"You wanted me to say something." "Don't say things like that in front of our citizens. They don't need to hear that." Taylar says. "Oh, please, like they haven't heard you already. You two aren't exactly quiet in the bedroom," he replies with a smirk that causes Taylar and Albedo to blush profusely. He looks down to see a smirk on Lupus Regina's face as well. See, even Lupus Regina knows what I'm talking about. After a few more playful slaps from Taylar and some unnerving looks from Albedo, Ainz finally got everyone to change into their adventurer personas. He dismissed Lupus Regina, and they headed off for Irantal. They used a gate spell to get an hour from the city, then walked beside the wagons the rest of the way to the gate. As they made their way towards the gates of Irantal, the effect of bringing back all 3 intact bodies was giving Ainz exactly what he was hoping for. Every person they passed just stared in amazement at the bodies in the wagons. By the time they had made it to the gate for inspection, a crowd had gathered to see the adventurer team bring in their kills. Apparently, word had even reached Guild Master Ainz because he was standing in front of the Adventurers Guild when they arrived to turn in their quest. "Welcome back, Forsaken. I am glad to see you completed your quests. We were worried for a minute there that you wouldn't return." Ainz says, "You needn't worry about us, Guild Master. These creatures wouldn't be enough to take us out." Ainz says, "Well, we bumped up the cockatrice and centipede to orichalcum level since we lost a mithril adventurer group to each of those creatures. I should have known you would complete it. It just means a bigger reward for your team, since we already increased it." Ainz says, "We also came across some other creatures." Ainz holds up the 2 bags he has of ears from the small army that attacked Carne village. "Oh, I see you 4 were pretty busy these last few days.
"Come on inside, so we can get your reward money."
We can talk about your last couple of days and see where we go from there."
Ainz says to him.
"Very well. Lead the way, Guild Master." Ainz says to him, and all 4 of them follow him. They go into Ainz's office this time instead of the receiving room as normal. They all take a seat, except the ever-vigilant guard of the rulers of Nazarick, Narbril, and Ainz begins explaining the details of their last few days hunting these monsters and the encounter outside of Carne village. He obviously didn't mention the fact that the Pleiades were the ones who actually killed all three of these creatures. He had watched the Pleiades battle all of the creatures during his time with Taylar, Albedo, and Oriole. Oriole had used a scrying spell so they could all watch it happen, so he just described what he saw while watching the Pleiades. Much to Ainz's surprise, Ainz already had new guild plates ready for them when the conversation had concluded. This revelation actually benefited Ainz greatly. He assumed it would take 3 days again, but getting new guild plates now made it so his timetable for his plans wasn't so tight. Now, they could leave immediately for the Baharuth Empire, and Albedo could begin her plans for the Riestai's capital. If all went according to plan, they should be requested to come help in the capital right after returning. This pretty much cemented the belief Ainz had that not only did his magic and fighting power come to this world, but also his luck stat. He tested it by pulling the same card out of a deck 8 out of 10 times, had a 93% rate on tails coming up while flipping a coin, but nothing was more telling than the things that were happening around his and Taylor's plans. Having Seabass randomly saved Swear, and now the guild master having their plates already ready so his timetable wasn't so tight, was just another layer of proof about his beliefs. It wasn't within my power to grant you adamantite rank when you were only copper plates, but after your recent success, I can certainly give you these now. Ainz pulls out that same wooden box their mithril plates were in and opens it for them. Can you really give us adamantite rank just like that? I thought it took time to make those plates.
Taylar asks.
After what you recently did, it deserves that kind of promotion regardless. You are also correct, it normally takes time for plates to be made, but I had these made after your first promotion. I knew it wouldn't be long before I was giving these to you. Ainz tells her. Thank you, Guildmaster. Ainz says. Humble as always, Mammon. We should be thanking you for everything you have done so far. A few things about being adamantite rank. First, there aren't really jobs posted for your rank. Just about every quest you receive from here on out will be a direct request made straight through the guild. Also, you now have access to the inns and taverns of the Orichalcum and adamantite rank adventurers at any guild branch in any country. Just show them your plate, and you'll be allowed inside. You will also be given a discount at numerous shops. Are there any questions you have for me? Ainz asks them. One question. I heard the Magicians Guild will buy the bodies we brought back. That is why we brought them here. Can the Adventurers Guild facilitate the selling of the corpses to the Magicians Guild? Ainz says. Yes, we can handle that. So, what is next for you four? Ainz asks them. We're going to head to the Baharuth Empire. We heard they have a huge market that sells all kinds of magic items from simple ones to unique ones. I think we could use a little break. We won't be staying long though, and should be back in about 3 days. Taylar says to him. Good idea. A short vacation to rest the mind and body is always a good option. You can pick up your payment from the Magicians Guild when you return, or you can wait around until tomorrow for it. I look forward to your return and hope you enjoy your shopping. Ainz says. We will pick it up when we return. Thank you for all your help, Guildmaster. We will see you when we return. Ainz says. Arwinter the next day. Flutta Paradine was returning from the basement of the Ministry of Magic and headed back towards his study. Ever since he learned that Ainz Olgown could control Death Knights, he had spent all his time either searching for him or trying to perfect his own spell to control the Death Knight. I need to prove I am worthy to be his disciple if I ever do find him. As Flutter is thinking to himself, one of his students approaches him. Master, there is an adamantite adventure team that is requesting an audience with you in the lobby, he says. I don't remember having an appointment with an adventure team today. Flutter says. They do not have an appointment, Master, but I believe you will want to talk to them, he says. Oh,
why do you think that?
Flutter replies. It is the adventure party, the Forsaken, that the Emperor asked you to look into, Master, he says to him. I suppose I should talk to them then. I am curious as to how much potential two teens who can cast Tier 4 magic possess. Show them to my office and tell them I will be right there. Flutter says to him. Very well, master, the man says. He gives a slight bow and heads off to escort the Forsaken to Flutton's office. Being over 250 years old certainly had its benefits, especially for a magic caster like Flutter. However, one of those benefits was not the ability to walk quickly. His frail body took quite a while to get from place to place. Of course, he could always use the fly spell to get around, but he thought his body would become completely useless if he did such a thing. Using magic did have an impact on the body, even if it is just minimal. He did not want to become so weak that he couldn't use his magic. That would have defeated the purpose of extending his life so much to learn the depths of magic. After his 10-minute walk to his office, that would have taken one of his disciples 3, he finally arrived at the door to his office. He opened the door and entered, shutting it behind him. When he turned to the 4 people waiting on the couch for him, he used his talent to see what kind of potential these 2 casters would have. He was incredibly surprised when he didn't see a single speck of magic radiating from them. He must have given a face to his surprise because Mammon, the only male member of the team, said something he didn't expect. It is not nice to try and look at someone's magic, Mr. Flutter, Ainz says. He gives a nod to Taylar, and she stands up. Detect scrying anti-information wall non-detection forbiddance. What spells are those? Flutter asks excitedly. The first 3 spells were as powerful as he assumed Taylar could cast, but that last spell was Tier 6 if his magical senses were working correctly. Divine spells you will never be able to learn. You wish to see Nabe's potential? Have another look, Mr. Flutter, Ainz tells the magician. He activates his talent and looks at Narbril. He doesn't notice anything at first, then he sees her take off her ring. In an instant, Flutter's vision is filled with a magical aura that far surpasses even his own. He can feel the tears starting to run down his wrinkled face. I don't care if she is younger than me. She can be my teacher until I find this Ainz gown, he thinks. He turns to Mammon and Taylar to beg them for Nabe to be his master. When he turns to them, he sees them each take a ring off their fingers. The magical aura that enveloped his vision from them was so overwhelming he almost passed out. He fell to his knees and let the tears flow freely down his face. He crawled over to Ainz and Taylar, sobbing the whole way. When he finally made it to them, he made his plea. Please, 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 God and Goddess of Magic, let me be your disciple. I shall serve you for the rest of my life with unrelenting devotion. Flutter pleads to them. I hear you have been looking for me, Flutter Paradine, Ainz says. As Flutter looks up at his new gods, he sees Ainz and Taylar spread out huge black and white angelic wings. He realizes this is Ainz' old gown, the being he has been searching for since he heard about him controlling a Death Knight. Flutter now realizes controlling Death Knights is just the tip of what this being can accomplish with magic. Bella, who he called Taylar, has just as much, if not a little more, MP than Ainz does. Yes, I have. I wish to gaze into the abyss of magic. Flutter says. What are you willing to pay to receive such a blessing? Ainz asks. I will give you anything, master. I will sell you my soul if you require it. Flutter responds fanatically. There is much that is required for such knowledge, but the first thing I need is sacrifices. Ainz tells the fanatical magician. An hour later at the Smiling Pegasus Inn, we definitely should be careful with what we tell that guy. Did you see the look in his eyes? I thought he was going to dry hump my leg. Taylar says. I agree. The ease with which he betrayed his entire country was astonishing. Although, if it is only magic he is after like we believe, it will be easy to keep him busy. Ainz says. I suppose you are right about that, but that is on you, big guy. I'm not going near that creepy old man again, if I don't have to. Taylar says to him. What about you, Albedo? Ainz asks. I am grateful I possess little MP for the first time I can remember. I probably would have kicked that insect through the wall if he crawled to me like he did Taylar. Albedo replies. Narbril Gamma, he asks. I agree with Lady Albedo, but I am sorry my magic is lacking and could not draw him away from you, Lady Taylar. Narbril says and kneels. It is all right, Narbril. Your magic is more than sufficient, and you are growing stronger every day. Besides, Ainz is going to handle this maniac, right? She says. Yeah, you both have enough to deal with already.
I can handle him.
I know exactly what to do to keep him busy for a good while, too. Ainz replies. Perfect. Me and Narbril are going to walk around and get a lay of the city. We will be back in about an hour, and we can go to the market then. Taylar says. Why can't we come? Ainz asks. I want you to have that talk with Albedo before she leaves for the Riestei's kingdom. Taylar replies. You don't want to come? Ainz asks. What talk? Albedo asks. No, I'll be fine here with Narbril. Taylar says. At least let me summon Rabido or Seabass to stay with you. Ainz says. Still overprotective, I see. I could decapitate Flutter with a backhand probably, and he is the strongest magic caster in this country, and I'm a healer. I doubt you have much to worry about, she says. She gives him a kiss and leaves the room with Narbril. Oriole, do you have a moment? Yes, father. What is it? Can you keep an eye on your mother for me? She just left with Narbril. We are in the Baharuth Empire. I know, Dad. I can see Mom right now. Didn't your mother tell you it is our job to worry about you? But thank you. No problem, father. So what talk Mamonga? Albedo says. It would be better to talk in Nazarick. Ainz says. Silence gate. Once he casts his spells, he leads Albedo through the gate, so he can talk with Albedo before she leaves for the kingdom.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.